Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Week in Review extended show with your host, That Girl. At any point in time you're consuming this, I can only hope you're doing well. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us for October 16th, 2024. We're going to be going over our past week's highlights and podcast series, and that was for the 7th October through the 9th of October, 2024. So for our spiritual and social causes discussions, I titled it Reinventing Trouble, and this is about a TikTok influencer. He's a traveler, and he does different videos on his adventures and his travels. I came across one of his videos that I thought was highly inspirational and just eye-opening, a great perspective and a really healthy worldview and outlook on a family, the Ramirez family in Honduras, up in the mountains. And he gave a really shining review and observation about this family. So they are pretty much living an exclusive life out in the mountains, out of modern day society. There's no television, and they live a very humble life. They him and his wife brought a game for them to play, and it was a series of board games. One of them was the game Trouble. And as they were explaining the rules and they were playing the game, his observations led him to an amazing revelation. They were not playing by the conventional rules. They had developed their own variation of the game, which they did not take territories. They were gifting each family member houses, and they refused to knock each other off their different spots. And if one person won, they just accepted it and continued playing. And it wasn't about competition. And he goes on to explain the different observations he made about this particular family, what set them apart, and what was their main focus. Many people in modern society focus on competition, competing with your neighbors, the corporate market, all of these different forms of levels of competitiveness. His observation was with this particular family that it was collaboration. And that's going to be a reoccurring theme with this week's episode in The Wires. A lot of collaboration. And I also want to share with you guys too, this past week, I haven't done really any of my own personal podcasts. I've been unearthing things from the archives, and I've been in a lot of prayer and meditation this particular week specifically. And the reason why I bring this up is when I was selecting content for this particular week in review, I must admit that I'm led to believe this is truly the prompting of the Holy Spirit. The reason that is being said is it was not intentional that all of these episodes, the 3 that I did this past week, all seem to intertwine and have a reoccurring theme about collaboration, networking, coexisting, and an established system of peace and unity. It was every day that I selected something, it was random, and I felt at that moment it was important. When I posted this video about the Ramirez family in Honduras, and the original content creator, I have his link, his information, his TikTok is in the podcast. If you want to click on the link in the description so you can get more information about him. It's the Vagabond Artist, I think is his name. In short though, I didn't really watch the video in its entirety until after I posted it on the podcast, and I rewatched it and I was like, oh yeah, this is why I really enjoyed it the first time. And it was really eye-opening and more inspirational than I remembered, and I was grateful to share that with you guys. So check out the video, and it was really great, and it's just one of these things that puts things in perspective. So that was, again, for October 7th, our spiritual and social causes discussion. So for our Tuesday Business and Tech Talks, I posted a blog that came from the archives as well. Rules, respect, and regulations. And this is one of my favorite ones that I've written probably about 2 years ago. And for me, it never goes out of style. It's something that needs to be reiterated and talked about on a reoccurring basis. At least I'm humbly led to believe. I bring up the comparison to the human skeletal system and bones in general, and how the skull protects the brain, and how the ribs protect the organs, and the spinal cord holds up the body's foundation and frames the body. Skeletal system is very important and vital, and it's very hard and rigid for a particular reason. It needs to be strong and sturdy, and it needs to be consistent because it's holding up the human body. So it's very important that it's hard and it's rigid and it's not flexible and it's not designed to break. But we all know that bones can be broken, and it's not a good thing. It's very, very painful. And that's what happens to a structured society when there's too many fractures, there's too many violations, there's too many things in there adding pressure and adding intentional assaults and onslaughts and attacks. At a certain point, the body needs to heal, and that's what I'm comparing it to society. And the human body in the bone structure is the foundation, the rules that you are expected and required to follow in order for a functioning, healthy, thriving society. And with the previous video that I talked about, it's so interesting when you focus on collaborative efforts and coexisting and cooperation and cooperative efforts versus people who are violating human rights, who are infringing themselves upon other people, who are aggressively competing. There's just a healthy level of competition, and it's good to have that every now and then, a good incentive. Nothing wrong with it, but when it is overarching, when you are violating rules. Another comparison that you can't deny. So many people get so mad at referees for making bad calls. When you've got paid off refs, when you've got people who aren't following the rules, and you got people who are cheating, and you know how it feels when you know that your team's supposed to have won and then something happens, a bad call, what have you. Someone intentionally throws the game and, was deceptive. It's amazing how people get really mad about that, yet how quick people are to ignore the rules of society. People who are doing some shady stuff they shouldn't be doing, and we're just supposed to accept it and just say, oh, it's okay. It's okay for you to break the rules. I mean, honestly, I understand we got to be flexible because, there's joints and there's cartilage and there's soft tissues and there's different parts that make up the human body. We understand that some rules and some laws are not actual laws in the books. Some of them are just suggestions, they're arbitrary. Sometimes they're put on there to intentionally oppress people. We are aware. But the thing that gets most people through difficult situations is, at the end of the day, is being respectful and the necessity of expressing and showing gratitude and respect. And there are human rights violations, and there are people who are doing things that are intentionally oppressive to other people. We need to be realistic and mindful of this. There are things that are unfair in life, things that are just going to happen naturally. How do you combat all that? How do you counteract all that? Again, it starts with foundation of respect, and then you making wise choices, coming alongside other people who have the same thought process of you, and moving towards corrective positive action. And to avoid further damage to the body, to the bone structure, you need to find the people who are willing to patch stuff up, willing to put things back together and support the parts that have been damaged and hindered. So essentially that's what the blog post is about, rules, respect, and regulations. And that was for our Business and Tech Talks discussions, October 8th. So for our well-being discussions with your host, Dennis Nutrition. I brought out the book again, 8 Master Lessons. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. And I will show you the cover for the people who are able to see the video. This is it right here, how it looks, by Gary Ferguson. And I titled this one for this segment, Survival of the Collaborators. And again, I didn't realize how reoccurring these themes were, but please listen to this podcast if you have an opportunity to. I've pulled out so many quotes from this book, from chapter 2. It is such a powerful book. I can't even explain to you what this piece of art is. Once you read it, you just experience it. On the front cover, I'll read it for you so you understand what it says. It says, "This beautiful book will make your jeans ache." So fascinating. A riveting manifesto for the millions of people who long to forge a more vital, meaningful connection to the natural world, to live a better, more fulfilling life. I'm telling you, something about this book is magnifying. Here are some more quotes from the back. Ferguson evokes feelings of solitude, timelessness, and aching beauty in the smallest details. These are all accurate descriptions. Mournful and defiant as a wolf howl, an eloquent tribute to a threatened place and its lone protectors. I could go on about the reviews because I'm already captivated by it. So if you have an opportunity to listen to the podcast that I discussed, there's also another book called The Bird Song. And that one is all animation, all animated pictures, a children's book. There's no words to that one. So I parallel these two books with this particular chapter. And some of the most profound quotes I came from it. There was one from Darwin. A lot of people focus on survival of the fittest. One of his arguments is the communities which include the greatest number of the most sympathetic members flourish best. And he talks about the observation that a lot of people in society are making, instead of the whole Greek primitive type of aggressive competitors mindset that many of us are still caught in, as we were talking about with the first segment, Reinventing Trouble, the necessity of competing with one another, conquering one another, the dog-eat-dog world mindset. More people are starting to observe that a lot of societies flourish better with more sympathetic members. So I want to wrap this up with one more quote coming from page 50, because I think this book was completely mesmerizing. So again, from the 8 Master Lessons of Nature, page 50, it says, an increasing number of scientists, from biologists to geneticists to anthropologists, have suggested that we may want to start defining overall health, be it in nature, the human body, or society, not in terms of competitiveness, but by the degree of established cooperation. Fascinating. It's just this reoccurring theme of the necessity of collaborative efforts, cooperation, and just kind of ditching the old mindset of survival of the fittest. And actually, there's a lot more to that statement that Darwin was making. So if you can check out the podcast, I'll give you more of a backstory to that statement. There's a lot more to it than just a simple, only the strongest, physically strongest survives. There's actually more to that statement. But that's for you to investigate. Either get a copy of the book or listen to the podcast. It gives you a lot more information. With that, I've been your host, That Girl. At any point in time you're consuming this content, I can only hope you're doing well. Thank you as always for spending your valuable time with us. And a shout out to our good boy, Kanye 2020 through the wires. Take care. And as always, God's peace.